Good morning. Welcome to my office. Welcome to another weekly wow. Jesus is our Jubilee. Our word this week, the word Jubilee. I would observe that no previous wow begins with the letter J until this week. Also, I've not yet used X or Y. Those may be more difficult to use. I think of related words. Our word Jubilee, similar words, reboot, reset. Here's a rule, I just made it up. Merely mentioning a word does not forbid me using it in the future. I'm reserving the right to use reboot or reset in the future. And another observation, I'd like to hear from you, your ideas about future wow possibilities. And one final item, the last item in a too long introduction. Thank you to a reader who wrote, "It is always amazing to me that your word descriptions focus on the exact thing I need to hear. Thanks for your leadership." And I would appreciate it if you would also give a like or share, since these are made publicly available. Share with your friends or on your networks, even publicly, if you would. Our word Jubilee, words for this life, words that point us also to the next life. I give a salute to Frank Viola for some fuel starter for today's wow. God's wisdom 3,000 plus years ago in ancient Israel, we have the instruction to do something that we modern human beings today are desperate to learn: how to reboot, how to reset. How do you hit the reset button on your own personal life? The Old Testament answer is the yobel, that is, the ram's horn trumpet, the announcement of the beginning of the 50th year, the year of Jubilee. Old Testament history, the year of Jubilee every 50 years, and Jubilee was not simply another religious holiday. It was not particularly ceremonial. It was not a time to be off work for another weekend. Jubilee was a radical reboot: liberty, release of slaves, return of property, forgiveness of debts. Think about it. The debts were forgiven, the slaves were freed, land was returned to the original tribes and families. As you think about freedom, forgiveness, restoration, renewal, those are also words that I'd like to reserve for future wow possibilities. Let me think with you about personal experience. Why do we tend to like board games? What's the appeal? A frequently told story tells of a grandmother who observed to her grandchildren, when the Monopoly game is over, all the pieces go back in the box and you start over next time. Everyone starts at go next time around. Jubilee was just that for Israel in the Old Testament. It was a do-over. Hit the reset button. Factory default. My grandmother was a superb checkers player. As a youth, playing against her was very frustrating for me because she would block me every time. My move, but I can't move. But when we finished playing, the game pieces went back in the box. The next time we started over. And eventually I became a better checkers player. Adding to our words, reboot, reset, Frank Viola shared a list of Jubilee benefits. Which of these are your favorites? Deliverance, equality, forgiveness, freedom, provision, release, renewal, rest, restoration, security. Again, I'd love to hear from you about those ideas or your own personal ideas for possible wow weeks in the future. For Christians, back to my original statement, for Christians, Jesus is our Jubilee. Jesus offers a hard reset. He begins his ministry, Luke 4, with promises from Isaiah 61. as he reads from the Old Testament text in the synagogue, the scroll, and he reads about release, healing, liberty. Some stories we know well. Peter gets a start over. He gets to begin again. A woman is told to go and sin no more. Another woman is changed because of her Jesus encounter. He knows everything about her. The gospel accounts are filled with Jesus encounters. You could make your own list and it would be fairly long. So here we are, Jubilee. What has been lost gets restored. That is indeed good news. The Bible calls it salvation. Jesus comes seeking and saving the lost. The old goes away. The new comes. Everything is made fresh. Freedom replaces slavery, and forgiveness eliminates sin slavery. If you would like to, at any time, talk, comment, message me privately, and I would be happy to share time personally with you. What are your favorite Jubilee realities? Perhaps you'll find those words that you share highlighted in a future wow. But for this week, Jubilee, let's find time in our lives for a reset so that we can be what God calls us to be through Jesus Christ with gratitude. Remember that God loves you. I love you. That's the way it's going to be. May we go forth this week with greater appreciation of the power of the year of Jubilee in the Old Testament. Maybe you'll think a time or two about this somewhat unusual word of the week. Wow, Jubilee. Until next week, God bless.